But
right.
welcome,
Welcome.
everybody, to another live podcast, Kappa. It's not really live, but we're getting it recording to you live, of Fateweavers. I'm your host today on episode 3
Episode 3.
of Tolovetrouble, and my student today, that is...
I keep the bees.
Sir, I Keep the Bees is going to be learning what FGO, Fate Stay Night, Tight Moon, Mage Shenanigans, the world of it is all about. Before we start that, how are you doing today?
Yo, it's a day. I'm alive.
I know that. My goodness.
We just
it was a
got done
busy-ass
with
day.
one hell of a recording session.
True. We did do another crazy recording, which was pretty awesome. Well, you guys will get it soon. Other than that, you've been playing any video games?
Well, I've still been playing Skyrim, actually.
Yeah, it's weird that Skyrim's coming back rise, because my friend's also starting to play a lot again.
I don't like that game. Which is weird that I'm playing it.
How modded is it?
Well, I actually stopped playing on my modded and I've started playing it vanilla.
What? No way.
Yeah.
Isn't it buggy, laggy, lacking a little substance?
Not any more so than modded.
Lag? Come on, man. Modded, you can do many things if you got Nexus mod.
I don't know, I just think I think the base game is fine.
Are you excited for the Starfield that they're coming out with?
You know, I don't actually play video games.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know.
But then let us start with our little lesson now that we got our small talk out of the way, shall we?
Fate and go and night and stay.
Something like that. Today we're going to be learning about a little bit more simpler about the associations of mages. Today we're going to be getting things rolling like what is mage associations, how many mage associations, what do they do, what do they are, kind of a TLDR sequence. I'm not going to go everything in super depth, because in technicality you can go like in each episode, at least for each individual one of these organizations.
True.
So let us start. So first and foremost, in the world of Tight Moon / Fate, there's a thing now called Mages Associations. Mages Associations is essentially a self-representative, self-defense organization in order to... It's kind of like Hogwarts, if you think about it, okay?
Magic government.
Yes. It's in a way of controlling, concealing, and updating and developing Magicraft. And we kind of talked about Magicraft, Magic Crest, circuitries in the last episode, right? So, At one point, before the Middle Ages, magic was pretty good, right? Everybody used magic, no problem. They didn't go, like, we didn't need circuits back in the day. We didn't have to do some next level shit, because technically... That's right.
Back in my day, we didn't have magic circuitry.
Pretty much, because they relied on Earth, and Earth's ether, or Earth's, just essentially, people during the era called the Ages of the Gods, there was no need for magical circuitry because you could just borrow the god's name, and by using the god's name as a construct / catalyst, you can perform said magic for free. Yeah.
Everyone did their magic on an abacus instead of a calculator.
Yes and no. It's more like... It's funny because in technicality, potency and excellency-wise, Ages of the Gods were much richer in magical ether than the modern magic. A lot of the modern magic is very outlandish. It's different from back then. You know how we're slowly now turning into an electronic technology where everything's electrical, everything's getting EV'd instead of gas,
Hmm.
right? It's kind of like that, where back in the day, everybody and their mom kind of used all gas, all balls deep. But as Middle Ages went coming forward, people start to say, um, if a lot of people know this, magic and magicraft is going to slowly decline. So in order to preserve their power, they wanted to kind of drift apart from society, kind of become a secret unknown, so they can keep their mystics and mystery. Because essentially, as the age of man progresses, right, what's unknown becomes known. And what becomes known becomes non mysterious, which loses that magic. You kind of get what I'm trying to say?
Magic becomes technology.
Yes, and funny part, a certain really funny person says you at one point you can't distinguish between magic and technology because they are two alike. The difference is that one can be explained thoroughly, but one cannot be explained, but outcome comes the same. It's like how to use fire, right? Back in the day, fire was an enigma, right? It was very difficult to create fire. Some would say that some Olympian brought towards us the first flame,
Oh
right?
boy, Prometheus.
Yes, exactly. And it's one of those things that now in modern ages, fire is a common deity. It's a common norm how to make fire, right? And so
Yeah.
fire kind of lost its magic or its specialty or what in the fate world called its mysticism, right? Because it's now turned into magic to technology because now a lot of people knows how to make basic fires. Of course, there's still magic fires and whatnot, but its potency has gone declined, and it kind of did decline after the ages of the gods ended. That's when technically when all the gods kind of left the earthly plane. But we'll get to the whole history on another episode. Essentially, you need to know that the mages started to say, hey, we need to keep ourselves safe. Simultaneously, we need to govern ourselves to not get too out of control and to make sure that the public don't see us too much. Okay?
Classic.
It's essentially by keeping secrecy, they're trying to preserve their power of therminology, right? Thaumaturgy. Excuse me, I can't.
Thaumaturgy?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I can't pronounce a lot of stuff.
You're good, brother.
Essentially,
I can be here to pronounce stuff for both of us.
hey, thanks. But yeah, it's the association is meant to still emphasize on pursuit of knowledge, right?
Hmm.
Some people use it to seek military strength, reserve it to use the force to protect itself, blah 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 blah. And then there's this fourth faction that's Holy Church and other major organizations, supernatural forces. Essentially, at one point, mages of the higher tiers kind of said, "Let's make an organization." Okay.
We need to organize so that magic doesn't become watered down.
Yes and no, and we'll get to that very soon, right? Some Maggies, aka mages, don't give a fuck as long as they're not threatened. Their existence is not, out in the public. It's not known. All their research is not like, goat seed out there. Because
You're not the first one that I thought was going to bring up Goatsy in this podcast.
and if and it's gotten to the point where if a mage involves a civilian into a magical phenomenon, the association actually hires assassin to kill that mage because they fucked up.
Ah,
It's one of those really keep it secret, keep it in inner circle as best as you can,
don't tell
because
anyone.
plebs don't understand it. Plebs gonna ruin shit, right?
Magic's scary.
It is, and it's also unfortunately very weak after the ages of the gods. And so what happened was during 0 AD, okay, a lot of the magic is dissipating. Like the original true ether was kind of dying because that's what true ether is like gasoline. Think of it like that. But we were running out of that because the gods left, because gods poured out true ether. Okay?
Okay.
But Brutians and Trister, Zelterage, and Shrinorg, they said, we need to preserve these as much as we can for knowledge. So they replaced true ether with a regular ether, which is the mystery, the circuitry, all that jazz, right? It's the modern magic and mystery chosen to continue to move forward to the Middle Ages and onwards, right? Like from 0 AD and onwards. They were just like, okay, we can't use true magic because we have like we really only have like X amount, like super limited amount of true ether anymore. We can't use it willy nilly. But we were able to concoct a thing called ether that is able to use it into modern magic, and using mysteries and magicraft, they're able to do the same shit on like a percentage, like 1% of what they used to do. But it became another source of energy to make magic. You get what I? So far, so good.
Yeah. So we ran out of natural materials and now we have to synthesize them and it's not as good.
In a way, right? It's more of we can't rely on the gods anymore, and we can't rely on the earth as much anymore. So why don't we make ourselves, our body, our essentially why don't we pull bullshit from ourselves instead, right? And that's kind of what happened. When the people, like a lot of the group people, heard about this, two big associations said, "Go fuck yourself." No way. They refused the new Magicraft and decided to close themselves off from the world, and that is called the Atlas and the Wandering Sea. So there is three big associations. The major one is the London Clock Tower Mage Association. That's called the Clock Tower. Okay.
Good buddy, you know that
The
I can't read Japanese.
I know. That's what I'm telling you. The main branch, the main source, the most popular one is called the Clock Tower. That is located in London. Whenever you talk about fate, whenever you talk about mage associations, 80% of the time it's talking about the London Clock Tower. Okay? The second one is the second famous, which is called the Atlas Institute. And Atlas Institutes are research of alchemists and many different things. And they're more of let's just say Atlas is what's the word? They're more into alchemy, right? They're called Titan's Pit, Institution Analysis and Aggregation, da da da. I'll talk about that later. And then last but not least is the Wandering Sea. Wandering Sea is the third branch and the most quietest one because it's very mystery. It's like super mystery. Like their base is so mysterious that unless they want you to find them, you can't find them.
Oh.
Like there's some spooky shit, and they are existing in a realm that is outside of human domain. Essentially, they live not really in an imaginary world, but they kind of live outside the dimension of regular plane of existence. But they're in Earth still.
They have like a pocket dimension.
Yeah. I think that's a good explanation of that. They kind of have their pocket dimension on their own. And then there's a side note called the Holy Church. Holy Church is more of the church, the Roman Catholic Church, specializing in hunting heresies. They're more of hey, word of God must not be acknowledged, right? And it's more of hey, listen, you can't be fucking around too much with magic out in the open. They're kind of the reason too why they kind of went into hidings, because their primary goal, right, is to spread the word of God. to help sick and poor, but they're specialized to kill heresies. Any mages, anybody that misleads the public, misleads people, insults God, kill people, they're just like, hey yo, you can't be doing that. It's essentially like
They
the
really
church we knew back in the day, right?
they enforce the secrecy of the mages.
In a way, yeah. Like, it says it right here: the Holy Church that treats heresies as if they did not exist, because those who teach the word of God must not acknowledge, which runs the counter to their doctrines. Holy Church contains zealots who feel the heresy should be more proactively destroyed. Major forces, major forces that has tenuous relationship with mage association. It's politics. It's complicated. Just understand, Holy Church no like mage associations, but they're
Oh,
not like
so they like lie to the people and kill anyone that disagrees?
that too. Like
They're
they
like
do that too.
they're like, "Hey, we do magic, but we're going to tell everyone that magic doesn't exist and kill anyone
They're
that."
for the people. They're essentially for the people, for God, right? The God, the man above.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're just like, we let you do your secrecy shit. Don't fuck this up, kind of deal, right? And then there's this whole 8 sacraments, executioners, knights, exorcists, da da da. That's another episode. I just want to talk about the major three and then the Holy Church. So, now that we talked about the basics, essentially the internal works are, as I said, Clock Tower, Atlas, Wandering Sea. Clock Tower became the official headquarters during the 3 branches because the other 2 kind of fucked off. They just drifted apart. They said, "You do you, boo boo. We're gonna peek our heads whenever we need to peek our heads, right?" So starting words, in order for you to be in mage associations, and like I said, mage association is like Hogwarts. Think of it like Hogwarts, except a little more secrecy, a little more fucked up. As long as they're not a sealed designate, people can leave associations anytime. And if you're wondering what a sealed designation is, to TLDR sealed designation, because we can have a whole episode of that, is the mage associations goes, hey, this guy's got talent. He might be trouble. Let's look into him. And if they look into him, they'll be like, yeah, you're sealed designated. And if you get sealed designated, you have 2 options. Okay?
Okay.
You either get bought by the association, which is the Clock Tower, get locked up into their super maximum solitary confinement, and continue your research there, but under their watch. Or pursue your own way, ignore them, and get chased for the rest of your life by everything and everyone. 5-star GTA style.
I see. Become a.
It's a way. It's both honor and unfortunate, because it's honor because the association has an eye on you. That means they're interested in you and they are afraid of you. And in a way, being afraid, the association being afraid of you is kind of a good thing because of this whole political bullshit. It's bad because they want to get rid of you if you say no, right? Like they will hunt you down. You are a threat, and they don't want you to be. They don't want you to pursue said way because you're either dangerous, out of control, or they don't want you to be touching that said portion.
You just have to get more dangerous by them. You just need to get more dangerous than them as fast as you can.
Dude, you joke? That's what kind of happens in a way. Like it's like iron sharpens iron, right? There's a couple of cases where, because somebody got sealed designated, their research excelled 10 times, and they got to the point that they almost reached the goal, which was insanity. They didn't reach it, unfortunately, but they were so close.
Well, I wasn't planning on learning how to make bombs today, but you forced my hand.
In a way, right? And that's kind of like a way of pressure breeds diamonds, right? In a way,
Yeah.
but the seal designation is meant to be for safety of the secrecy, right? Both safety of the secrecy, safety of the political shenanigans, and just safety of the mages as a whole. So it doesn't break this balance that they currently have, like the Hogwarts situation is having. So putting that aside, it's beneficial. Like a lot of people can leave Mage Association, but like you rarely see that happen because it's one of those. Hey, as long as you're under our umbrella, you get resources, finances. You can use our library for knowledge and other benefits, right?
Yeah, you have
So it's like a great gathering place for value, information, fame, and connections. It really is.
just safety.
Yeah, and that too. In a way, you are guaranteed some safety as long as you can tolerate the political rivalry, faction bullshit. There is a class and nobility discrimination, um, and all that jazz, which we will talk about very soon.
You're
And what's up?
you're basically choosing. You can either leave by yourself or take part in society.
In a way, right? Like, um,
We live in a society, but it's mages
it's
this
one
time.
of those. It's gotten to the point where mage association's kind of a must because you don't have enough. I wouldn't say fame or rich, right? Like you don't have enough money or notoriety to kind of be
Notoriety.
like, I want a secrecy and do my shit on my own. There are a couple other Japanese families that does that. But unfortunately, as a clock tower London, the segregation of race and other department like Eastern side racism does occur here as well. Even though a Tokusaga family is one of the really good ones, but and organization is anything but harmonious. But because it's complicated, just like we said, there maybe the edge versus edge might lead to an academic excellence. But yeah, it's also to the fact that like one branch won't share their result to other branch because they'll leverage that shit to like political shenanigans, and it gets wild. Like it really goes political wild. Um, yeah, whenever issue concerns, and then yeah, the external relationship. Maze Association has a non-aggression pact with the Holy Church we talked about before. For quite a while, but armed conflict still tends to happen often in and out of records fashion. Alas, however, in the case, it's in it and of itself.
The mages truly are living in a society.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And I'm not gonna go anything further than here, because then I have to talk about the different worlds, right? Like Strange Fake is a different world, Fate Grand Order is a different world, but Bayes Association kind of has an antagonistic relationship with America and other countries, right? Like because it's so European based, there is kind of a European bias. So anybody that's from like the China, anything that's from Japan, Eastern magic is kind of looked down upon. Um, a lot of the American magic, the native magics are kind of looked down upon because they're just like, oh, we have the associations. You're inferior scrubs, right?
We
Kind of
we
deal.
it's just Europe.
It's essentially Europe being Europe, and like I said, yeah, quick seal designation. They're down by Hague Association to maintain and protect the special abilities. Among the few magic seals are and then magic circuits. Oh yeah, fun fact: if you get caught in the seal designation and you are fucked, you get preserved.
Oh,
Preserved as in like the brain, eyeballs, nerves, and magical circuits are extracted and pickled for preservation fluid.
For what?
Yeah, just to keep it sacred, keep it safe,
They're just
because
gonna
they'll be able to kind of store it and research it later.
You're gonna keep your head in a jar like Richard Nixon.
Yeah, like because the brain, like they can use their brain. Because remember, brain can be used as like an encyclopedia book
Yeah.
or like their family shenanigans. So it's also not to destroy the preservation of sort, if so, and then all that.
They don't want you alive, but they also don't want to lose your magic as a resource.
Yes, it's one of those. They can get a little antsy, right? But in the end, they are honoring your knowledge, right? They don't want to waste anything. So they'll secure your flesh, blood, potential. So remember, magical circuitry is all special on its own. So even if you are not able to do it, somebody that's more loyal or somebody that's more like honed into associations, little rules and edicts, they can kind of put that, essentially put that knowledge, put that mindset, put that circuitry on that thing, right? And then be like, what was he going to do? Show me. Or like, what was he about to reach? And like, how dangerous can this be? And all that jazz. But they say that some designated are to be incarcerated, becoming samples and blah blah blah. But some of them are sealed, some of them are incarcerated, some of them are ripped to shreds. And rare occasion occurs where somebody that's sealed, before they get fucked, they get their seal lifted, but they have to agree to contribute to the associations, right? Like, what was it? Like, in order for their freedom, they had to like give up a lung or some shit like that. I forgot the how the shows go, right? And and then this whole shebang of sort, and then there's the enforcers, the related terms. So there's hierarchies, which I've written here on the general chat, so I don't forget it. The hierarchies of students. So, like, congratulations, you made it to associations. There's many ways to get to this Hogwarts, aka Mage Association, Clock Tower, London. Most notably, that you have to be good. If you have talent, they can't question you, and you can get segregated, looked down upon all you want, all you can. If you can prove that you have the cojones, racism, segregation, discrimination goes out the window, because in the end, everybody kind of respects what you can accomplish and what you have accomplished. They'll be spiteful, right? And be like, oh, this fucking, Asian mage fucking able to pull this off. This is some bullshit. Must have cheated, whatever. But in the end, there will be some sort of respect for those who shines, right? A second way to get into the academy is by recommendation, or associations like, hey, yo, your family's like 5th generations in, looking good, buddy. You might have potential, want to come into our little group. Not everybody's welcome, and not everybody is accepted. You know what I mean?
They just want to gather the most promising individuals.
In a way, right?
It's college, right?
Yeah, it's essentially college for magics, and they want to keep it strong, right? They want to keep it strong, and they want to keep it. And it's also political bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, if we can get this guy into our department, we can expand it, or we could use him as like a budget fodder or whatever. There are a couple other related terms that you probably don't need to know, but they're kind of special people. Okay. There's somebody called the average one. The average one is essentially the users of 5 great elements. I believe 5 great elements, if I can remember correctly, was fire, wind, earth, and Fire, wind,
Water.
earth, water, and ether. If I remember that correctly.
Ah, yes, the chakra natures.
Yeah, so it says fire, earth, water, wind, void, excuse me, which is technically ether, but void is also known as ether, is the five great elements. And you'll know why ether is, and unfortunately, JP and NA translation has the problematic of, you see how it says void, and you see how it says ku, and it
I,
says ether?
I can't read
There's,
that, sir.
I know. There's many different reading translations to the last element, which is ether. Ether is such a it's such a topic
It
because it's
has
an
the
imaginary factor.
it has the traditional issue in translating from Japanese to English.
Yeah, and also fifth ether. The imaginary factor is where the magic kind of comes from. Like this is the ether is special because that's a class on its own, which I'm not going to talk about anymore because that's like whole 4 episode. Because my God, it's
Oh
big.
god.
But just understand that anybody that is called or labeled as a average one is able to control all five great elements. Most of the people have one, two at best. Some rares are three. Super rares are four, but never. It's rare. It's fucking anybody that goes above two is a rare Pokemon.
Ah. So it is
And
chakra
five
natures.
is the five is called average one, and there's literally like one it, a lot. There is very little average ones. Okay.
There is on average one.
Yes, it's essentially yeah. They're very valued by the main associations, and one of our main heroines called Rinto Saka is one of them, which is we'll go on to that later on.
Best
It's
girl.
the best girl. Yeah, yeah. For you, it's the best girl. A second owner, aka supervisor, is an association and trust family, Maggie, spiritual land, currently head, blah 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 blah. It's it's essentially like Kiritsuga Emiya says, "Hey, it's possible to remain hidden as second owner depending on how well perform his job." It's just another way of administrating supernatural activity in its territory. They'll just be like, "Hey, I need a second owner," and then they'll be like, "Okay, you're in trust on this special spiritual land. You'll be safe, but you got to tell me everything about it. Fix everything. Make sure everything is back to normal." Um, that's kind of what happened in Zero at the end. But while performing this job, you kind of get like the secrecy, or if you were like a terrorist, you kind of get an is it absolution or absolution?
Yeah, absolution.
Yeah,
It's like witness.
it's kind of like clean record.
Is it like witness protection?
Yeah, something like that. If you do a second order thingy, very close to it. And then last but not least, the Leichi, which means spiritual land. It's a mystical area where a really strong ley line of mana. So you know what mana is, right? In a
Sure.
way,
Sure.
it's essentially mana is where true ether is, which is the source of the magic that you can get from Earth. Because Earth has a lot of true ether, which is which is the byproduct of able to make magic stuff to an extent. There's this thing called ley lines, which is essentially the vein, like the vein of magic.
The ley lines. Yeah.
Yeah, just like you have your circuitry, it's the Earth's veins called ley lines.
Be on my way to transplant the Earth's magical circuitry.
Some people try, and it's really cool. We can talk about those special characters later. But they're essentially a land, a plot of land, area location that some magic crafts and people, the top class of Maggie, can activate, and they have it. And Most of it's owned by mage associations, but some people use it for practical purpose, actual administration of lands left to local lineage, blah blah blah, right? One of the special lands, which happens in Fate Zero all the way to your Fate Stay Nights, right, is the Fuyuki, Japan, where the Aozaki family is one of the only locations that Meiji can activate it. But in Fuyuki Grail War, they made some next level excuse, and they tried to create third magic, which is one of the true magics. Let's put that aside because that's another topic.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I'm putting it a lot of aside. It's essentially spiritual lands is a very heavy, dense where you can access mana, where you can access this true ether, like the really rich mana source, to perform whatever the fuck it is, or just kind of feel it in your skin to kind of feel like, oh, this is different from our magic kind of deal, right? Some people use it for lineage purpose. Some people do it for practical purpose, etc., etc. And then there is somebody called Wizard Marshal. Wizard Marshals they're essentially military they're rarely fucking given out. I think there's only like 2 people given out as Wizard Marshals, and they're Zeltridge and Bartholomew L'Oreal. Note that while L'Oreal is a Wizard Marshal in charge of 50 Elite Mage, she is also an assistant director of the Clock Tower. Don't worry about that. And then you got a Workshop. Workshop is, you're going to hear that a lot. Workshop is essentially magical laboratory for mages to perform their research experiments and their thesis statements, right? The reason why you make a workshop is to make other shit not get into your workshop. It's kind of like a barrier. It's kind of like a bounded field is what a lot of people would call it in the Fate Society area. And in their workshop, they put up a bounded field to protect anything from coming in nor out. So you'll have a nice ground zero, like a sterilized room for their special experiment, right?
Okay. So it's...
And you walking into those kind of things without permission, without, any intentions, people will panic. Will be like, whoa, you can't fucking come into my things like that. How the fuck did you come into my thing like that? Because there's always, defense, whatever, but...
You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, essentially. So, now that you have technically learned the basics, let's start with the rankings of Mage Associations.
Okay.
Congratulations, my friend. You are now able to come into the Clock Tower. You are one of the lucky few that is in the London location to have an amazing experience that is the Clock Tower Mage Associations, right? Brief history. So, Clock Tower is very complicated. Clock Tower is a campus, right? It's got its own bounded field, da-da-da-da-da. And it's hiding some really big secrets. For instance, like Spiritual Tomb of Albion. But, another episode. So, essentially, in order for you to go to the Clock Tower, everybody has to go into this structure, okay? Everybody will has to go to first Lord, which is was it called General? I think it was General. General information. So like the basics, blah blah blah, of everything from magic to fundamentals. They're all lords that are guiding. There's 12. Before you learn the 12, understand that there is a headmaster, okay?
Okay.
Which is the director, who was the formal disciple of Solomon, who said, we're making this associations, okay?
Is this guy immortal?
Brician is another story, but he's very good at keeping himself alive. I will. I don't want to spoil too much just yet about Brishian, but essentially, he was there since 580. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, he's immortal for the most part.
Let's keep it that way for now. And then there's the three great nobles. They're called the Lords of Noble. Okay. There's practically the three major families. They're called the Bartholome, Bartholomoloi, the Tronbellio, and Valentita. I'm butchering the pronunciations of the name. I usually don't give a fuck about them, but they are the great threes if you're going to know about the clock tower. They're the big three, right? And then there's 20 other fucking relatives.
It's just family shit, right?
Yes, yes. And it's very political crap too. And they're the top. They're the top among the top, most powerful, most influential. Like, you won't fucking hear, like, in a conversation, you'll always hear about them at least once, no matter what you do, where you go.
The
Okay?
royal family.
Yeah. And then you have your Lord's Monarch. Lord's Monarch are essentially considered as the 12 Lords. 12 Lords are essentially, think of them as headmasters or teachers. They're the head of the group that teaches 12 different courses. 13 is special. And the 12 Lords are essentially all the way from 12 departments. They gather their decision makings, blah, blah, blah. And the 12 Lord is as follows. Ah, fuck. They did not fucking order it right in their shite. Which
Of course not.
fucking upsetty spaghetti. Here, let's go to 12 departments. There, fantastic. So, there's 12 departments. Technically 13, but we'll get to the 13. Well, there's only 12 in the surface area, okay?
There's 12 that we know about.
Yes. So, they're divided, 12 different sections, 12 different domains of mysticism. I don't know if you can see the picture here, but essentially these are the current TLDR notice.
There sure is a picture.
Yes.
Ooh, I can almost read some text.
It's very wonderful. I don't know if you can see any of this, but these are your three major families: clock tower rankings, color titles, and spiritual tombs. Don't worry about any of these. Just understand that you have 12 sections of areas. Okay. One is called General Fundamentals. General Fundamentals is essentially basic shit. It's your, you go to college, you need your English and other fucking credits, right?
There is magic. Here. This is how you use it.
Yes, pretty much. It's basic history, basic knowledge, basic fundamentals. Anything that is basic shit, you'll learn this for 5 years. 5 years. And then you go to individual magic. Individual magic is more specific. They're more modern day uses, founders, blah blah blah. They're neutral. They're fucking kind of go wild. They're more into. There's like, okay, here's general shit, but if you want to know specifics, here's the detail kind of deal, right? They're just known to be like, they're more focused fundamentals to each departments and situations and whatnot. Then you got the spiritual evocations, where you get to learn like what is a summoning, what is a spiritual surgery, necromancy, what those are, and how things work out.
Is necromancy looked down upon? Is it like a crime?
No, necromancy is a part of a division. Okay. They're not gonna be like, oh, gross, you're necromancy. But a lot of people be like, necro.
Ew.
They're more like ill necro, but they're just not like necromancy trash. They're gonna be like, well,
No one's gonna try to kill you for being a necromancer, but they're probably not gonna sit at the table with you.
In that way, right? Because, for instance, one of the Apocrypha characters, technically a necromancy kind of guy, specialized in necro. So what he does is that like he sleeps with corpses, he sleeps with skeletons. He's used to this, right? Like he's
Sleeps with
living.
corpses.
Yeah, he's living in the tomb. He lives with the skeletons to kind of imbue that functionality, that energy, that affinity, right?
So he sleeps like in a like with the
No, no,
corpses
no. He
near
doesn't
him.
sleep in like car, like car caskets and whatnot. But some people go that far sometimes, right? Like it really just depends on who you are and what you do, right? Like for instance, there's a really good him. Yeah. So this guy here specifically states that he drenched by the deaths of human beings. Choosing them from rituals or workshop. Skill in working with bodies, they have the number of skills. He is noted to be an abnormality who uses body parts as weapons themselves, using cursed fingers as bullets and turning magic hearts into grenades.
Oh,
So he's a really cool guy,
that's
and
actually
I'll
pretty
talk about it.
cool.
Yeah, he's a really fucking cool guy, and he's part of Apocrypha, which I think we should watch, because I think you'll get hyped on that more.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, active calling someone down with necromancy is a summoning of a residual thought of the dead, which is, psycho copy type of summoning magic, blah, 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 blah. It's there's this whole, yeah, you see how necromancy has a lot of paragraphs to it, too. Like, it's
Yeah.
not downed upon. It's ways of where it's kind of used to communicate with the dead sometimes. It'd be like, what happened? You got any information? All this stuff, and like where's your soul go? What happened? And it also comes to like political and magical crimes happens, right?
Yeah.
Um, some people will be like, oh, we can try necromancy, and one of the red alarms would be like, the soul's nowhere to be gone. And then that itself is like an indication of whoever's fucking committing this crime is either taking souls or ripping souls apart and whatnot. And it goes down to this whole investigation phenomena of like, oh, And then yeah, he also processes pieces of core such as these for every use he could. He used things like monkey hands, owl eyes, and hearts of Magi for his mystic code and his abilities. He's really cool.
That sounds
But yeah,
sweet.
so and part of it is it's in part of spiritual evocation, right? Mineralogy is as it sounds, right? This department of minerals. It's really jewel magic craft, and it's really cool. It's
Jo
where like
Jo crystals and
Jo Crystal, hell
quartzes.
yeah! Like for instance, Ultrabolt. Ultrabolt was like he uses mercury magic. It was so cool. Like he has the ability to use a thing called Valham Hydrogram, which essentially is a really dangerous mystic code that essentially I don't know if he has it. Doesn't tell much, but essentially, there we go. So it's a mercury filled magic craft. It is a supreme magic craft which he uses the power of mercury and he just controls and shapes it at will. So like he can by pouring mercury and putting magic on it, he can make a perfect weapon, a perfect shield, a his daughter actually creates a perfect maid, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's really good. And he's one of the higher he's one of the Ultrabolt family, so he's one of the higher ups in the Magicraft. But yeah, it's something like that. That's kind of where the mineralogy comes in. Mineralogy kind of comes to the point where, um, remember this dude called Zeltridge? You kind of keep hearing, um, let's just say Zeltridge can practically move to parallel timelines using jewel magic.
Oh.
He's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I'm the way I'm saying it is gonna trigger a lot of people, and I'm doing them injustice. We're not gonna talk about him because that's for 2 episodes at least worth of explaining who amazing he is, and he has a lot of different type of lore. Like there's a Type Moon lore, Tsukihime lore, Fate Stay Night lore about him. Essentially, mostly is aligned, just different endings and possibilities and whatnot. Moving on. Zoology. As it sounds, it's more of a, it's more of a chimera study where people just kind of look at animals, transformation magic, shapeshifting. That's kind of where they're studying. They're just be like, can this transform into that? What about?
They're making homunculi.
Homunculi is a different. They are in a different department, but transformation magic does use a decent amount of homunculi as an experiment, of course. Then there is the sixth one, which is the lore department. The lore department is fascinating because the founder of the clock tower is actually running it, and he still continue to run it to this day. He essentially is the lores he investigates and the stuff that he and his students kind of studies is not just your world history, right? Like it's not your typical Hindu gods or Christian lords and Christian gods and Christian angels, European deities and Greek mythologies. Those are all in kind of basic shit. Their lore is all about investigating, collecting, discovering things that are otherworldly. Like super artifacts that is like outside of earthly bound. They are literally angelic, right? Like there could be angelic artifacts. There are artifacts that might be a threat to humanity. They are essentially the lore within lore. They are the people who hunt the unknown that is outside of the world.
This is the SCP Foundation.
In a way, really, it's except in a way, this is an SCP department where they understand, contain, or just try to learn the secrets and guard it as best as they can. And that's why it is under the supervision of the founder, which is Brishian. Number 7, botany. Botany is a pretty hands and forward. It's as the name goes, but botany is actually more towards witches. There are difference between mages and witches. Mages can be agender, can be both, can be anything. Witches are more nature based, more natural. They're more Ages of the Gods type. So they're established there.
So they're using, Eye of Newt.
They're witchcraft. They're the Department of Witchcraft.
Yeah.
And of course, pharmaceuticals, simple shit like anti-aging, the infamous drug of what was it?
Meth.
No. Jekyll and Hyde. Infamous drug was made by the botany department.
Ketamine.
Yeah. And it's essentially it's known to be for witches, and witches unfortunately I think they're the most underrated yet kind of segregated group of all.
Slept on.
They're slept on, but at the same time they're treated poorly because of what they truly are. Like we're talking about like witches as in like they're witches. We're talking about like way back in the day, Age of the Gods witches, where you don't live in society. You do that shit old ways. You get like sacrificial shit.
You go live in the woods and kill ghosts.
You do, yeah, you do. And sometimes fetus might be a requirement. Sometimes some drastic ingredients be a requirement, and
It's like
but it's effective, right?
it's dirty magic, but it's necessary.
It's calling it dirty is a little rude, but yes, yes, in a way, it is an outdated, out-timed magic. Astromancy. Astromancy, you'll hear it a lot about it in FGL, which is the mobile game that you know that I keep talking about. Astromancy is a department, as the name says. It's in Atomosphere's jurisdictions, and they're all about using astromancies to astrology, right? They're planetology, divinity. They use astromancy craft to predict and practice, focusing on the future by looking at the stars. They are essentially um, their notion is that by looking at the stars, we can predict the future, and by looking into the cosmos, we can understand and probably learn more and what happened to not only the stars but how we can improve the earth, if not themselves, right? And FGO talks about a lot of this, and I'm not trying to spoil you nor dump you with Omega lores out of existence. So, moving on.
Omega Fate lore.
It's Omega FGO lore, not Fate lore. There is a difference, and I know I'm being asinine about it, but and then there's the creation lore. One of the three major family owns the creation lore, and the Department of Creation is it's I don't know how to explain this guy. It's it's got factions, and it's they're more of elegancy. They're more of beauty. They're more into it has to be a true art that is which survives the test of time, right? They are a major focus on artistry, and they're practically artists.
Ah.
Okay?
So what do they do?
They make art. They make magic beautiful. Like incantations has to be elegant, or um, they're more of an artistic impactment, right? It's
More
the
than
creation of it's weird because they're weirdos, but at the same time they're looking for the perfection, right? Their whole family goal of the branch is to create something that is the most beautiful person, right? The creation of the most beautiful thing in the world. It's like trying to achieve perfectionism that will stand against any time, right? It's no matter how long the time goes, no matter what the how modern, how non-modern the world becomes, their creation will be considered as beauty. They're really into this artistic beauty shit.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they're willing. They're one of the few departments that are willing to look outside the box. A lot of people like to be like the like this way is the best, but as you go down the ladder, and you see we're at the ninth out of the 12th. The more you go down, the more you'll understand there's a 12th department, which is called the Modern Magicraft Theory. And we'll talk about that very soon. But essentially, TLDR, they just want to make things beautiful. Their objective is to create, like, they want to create the most beautiful person.
That's weird.
Whether that is skin, whether that is skin, artistry, they're artists. Just think of them as artists. Like artists in every direction possible when it comes to magic, physiques, talking, speech, mannerism, blah 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 blah. And then there's the 10th one called Curses.
Ooh.
Curses is essentially the Jikimari. You know what a curse is. If you don't know what it is, it's very simple. It's does necromancy. Its major field is necromancy. It's more of what is a curse and what is a fundamental and basics of curse. And unfortunately, the wiki doesn't tell you a lot here, and it's a really sad thing. But curses is really phenomenal because curses are very ancient. They're very basic. They're primitive, but they're very effective.
Ah.
You know, it's nasty. It's gross, but it's good. It works. You know, and one of the part of it is necromancy. It's where it and sadly curses does use like those penis fucking worms and whatnots and other ways of doing things. It's more like a I don't want to say dark magic, but it kind of is, right? But it's in a way where you're just like, hey, if you really want to excel in curses, and some families do, and some mages' families are known to be like the curse experts, right? And they'll just be like, yeah, curses are no different from blessings because it just really depends
Hey,
on the perspective, right?
you can no longer have children.
Sometimes that's a blessing,
Yeah.
sometimes it's a curse. And it's really interesting that that the Department of Curse, unfortunately, like I said, Wiki does not do justice. But Department of Curses is very important, and it kind of tells this fundamental, primitive, ancient technique that is the curse, the what is a curse, and it kind of goes in on what is a curse and how can a curse can be activated. What is a different type of curse, including necromancy and kind of these dark shites, right? Like poison, but technically it's not poison because instead of poison, it's a curse.
But
vial,
instead of
right?
poison, it's
And there'll be a
magic.
difference. Yeah, because some people could be immune to poison, but they won't be immune to curse.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So it's kind of like that study. Like it's Department of Curse is definitely shit on because it's known to be the classic dark, very depressing, little sus. But if you're willing to learn this department, I I think it's fascinating. But unfortunately, all the motherfuckers that are in the department are like Slytherin, so they're evil as fuck.
Yeah. Sort your school's
like
houses by character alignment.
look,
Ah,
look at the fucking characters that comes out of it, right? Like they are fucking bad people.
well, yeah. You're studying curses for a living.
But yeah, last but not least, not last but not least, we got archaeology. We got ourselves the archaeology. Department of Archaeology is the Asteya, which is the 11th department. It's more of like a modern day under. There's this whole fucking jurisdiction bullshit against it. It's archaeological.
Are they the ones
You
who
know
were
how it
eating
goes,
mummies
right?
back in the Victorian era?
Not really, but they do research overboard, go overwide historical matters, right? They're constantly poverty for its entire history. Sheer authorities always kept the family at the very top of the neutral faction, even they got no money to back it up. Blah blah blah. Their duty is to inform about the mysteries outside of purview of the clock tower. It's essentially Department of Lore is all about outside of Earth, out like angelic shit or like things that came out from the cosmos, right? Archaeology is to be like, oh, dude, like we knew this, but we have a relic of like the shield that brings in the King of Knights, aka Artoria, or like a cape that brings forth of a great king that conquered riding with his army, which is Ishkandar, or like a chalice that was used by the King of Kings, which is
So
Gilgamesh,
they're
right? They're
yeah,
archaeology peeps,
the
but
Covenant or the Ark of the Covenant, the spear that killed Jesus.
yeah, and things like that. And yeah, like those are and actually that's an artifact that does get used as a catalyst. And they're trying to inform the mystery that kind of like Clock Tower doesn't know, right? And they're known as yeah, they're made of bricks and stone. Stone roads are made distant power struggles with associations. Blah blah blah. Research building which looks like a mansion, larger than 20 small castle, and it's just they're they're into the lore and they're into artifacts, items that you might not have found. Oops, you know. They're archaeology, and as the fucking name states, that's the best way I can tell you. And then last but not least, this one has been a I would yeah, this one is the newest department, which is the Department of Modern Mage. It was established around 20th century, and it popped up because it was owned by none other than Elamaloid the First, which was the whatchamacallit, the this guy Caneth. It was taught by this guy Caneth Elamaloid Archibald. He's the teacher of this department, and it's more of a way of modern theory. It's more like, hey, Magicraft in the past
Can
is
we make
trash. This is a
can
more
we
efficient
make
way to do
magic
it. Like
into
there are
electricity? Can we make magic cars?
something like that. It's essentially saying that hey, we're like boomers stop being boomers. These are ways to make it easier use. There are bypasses in some old tradition that can negate like a generation's worth of effort. They're more of the people that says, "Hey, we're in a modern society. There's a modern way to do
I don't want to program in C anymore. I want to program in Python, right?
this." It's something like that. It's more like it's a really nice way to think out. This is a class where you think outside the box. This is the class where, yeah, you guys been you guys been doing this way for a very long time, but why not try it this way? It's more efficient, more effective, less hassle. Your family doesn't have to suffer too much, and you can, like, like jump a lot of shit, a lot of like achievements instead of doing this tedious ass
What if
traditional
instead
work,
of
right?
killing goats over an
It's
altar, we kept the blood in the fridge? We have refrigeration now.
something like that. Yeah, like it's really fucking simple shit like that sometimes, right? It's they're gonna be like, why can't we reuse the blood? Or like, what if instead of doing a long incantation, you kind of shorten the incantations and only use the necessity words in order to activate its
Do light
potency?
bulbs work just as well as candles?
Something like that, right? But yeah, essentially, this used to be ran by Caneth, Emeloid Archibald, but now runs by Elamaloid the Second, and Elamaloid, aka Waver Velvet. Um, oh, that ain't it. That's a kick W one. Elamaloid the Second, which essentially is technically the stand-in lord until his daughter Caneth Elamaloid Linus can take over. And due to the fact that he kind of got blackmailed into getting this shit, and so it's all that. And he feels zero. He felt bad because what he's did, what he has done. But yeah, like it's aimed to summarize Magicraft to the past centuries as a broader, shallower, more general Magicraft, easier to use, adapted to modern society. Primarily revolving around occult and related studies, having large impact in the department. Is a small part of the full scope of a department. Blood located in the street. Blah 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 blah. The area had nothing but neighborhood conceivably close to the clock tower. Students for the Department of Magicraft. I don't know if there's any achievements there, but technically, everybody that is here, right, went out as a great people, essentially. Like anybody, it's in the future, but it is canon that anybody that studied in the case files, anybody that studied in the 12th department, came out stronger than ever before. People were able to get accelerated because the Department of Modern Magicraft and Theory actually worked. So it's a small department. It is a very new department. It is fucking getting politically beaten the shit down. But at the end, they're like, I suppose you get your job done. Because they do produce high quality students after they're done with their class. Not everybody, but most of them. Right, kind of the reason why, if you see the big picture here, that a lot of the known, it's also the fact that there's a whole book about Waver, which is Elemeloid. There's like you get to know a fuck ton of more students that is under Magecraft Theory than any other associations, right? And then last but not least, the 13th branch that technically doesn't exist. It's policies. God. It's Department of Policies, aka it's the Department of
God.
Politics. It really is just a department full of politics. It's essentially a FBI of mage associations. They know everything. They practically know everything. When it comes to basic shit, right? Not their research, not their studies, not their like goals and their scheming.
Magical
bullshit,
KGB.
Right? Something like that. It's to maintain orders, right? So does not have the family associated with like others. It's removed from academic departments in the 17th century. It is the 13th hidden item in the clock tower under the jurisdiction of the Bartholomew family, the lore department's early blah blah blah. Policy opens to those who wish to pursue politics, acting more of a social science rather than a discipline in pursuit of mysticism. It is a warlord how to rule the clock tower and send their children to learn leadership relevant to the clock tower, and it is also in charge of parents' magical formula. To help with the latter, they possess something similar to Atmosphere's family's environment model, allowing them to check frequency of use of patent magic access to globe. They are essentially served as the law enforcement of the Mage Association, investigating and arresting those who breaks the rule. In capacity, it has a plenty of influence through British royal family and governmental bodies such as managed media.
Oh God, the Department of Bureaucracy.
It is. It really is. And it's a way to be like, to make sure that none of this shit leaks out into the public, right? Or like no embarrassment horse shit goes out into public, or next level like crisis level event doesn't happen. And Elemeloid case file kind of plays a significant role because you get to see Department of Policies a lot, because Waver's a sucker for problem. And that's why you love the series. And that is essentially the 13 basic families of class. Any questions so
far? Not particularly.
You thought your 20 motherfuckers was gonna be crazy.
Brother.
I'm only talking about departments. Not even the people that are working in it. It is gonna get wacky and crazy. Oh, right. I forgot to mention basically. Student wise, you get multiple classes or ranks. People are offered by ranks, right? Ranks are usually able to be upgraded the more achievements and more shit that you've done. First is count. That's your pleb level. Pleb level is count.
Okay.
Anything. Let me make sure I got this right. I gotta make sure I got the department's fucking level correct because shit gets complicated as fuck. Leading family, blah blah blah. No, I need to know about rank. There we go. So ranks is in everybody's magic ability, lineage, blah blah blah. So it goes from frame, right? Frame is the youngest child. People who are the youngest gets it. Count gets it in the eldest child, and cause. So it goes frame, count, cause, festival, pride, law, brand, color, and then grand, crown.
I see.
Ranking 7 to 1. So it goes up, right? So 1 being the best, 7 being the lowest. A lot of people will end up in 5. Anybody that is 4 is very rare. 3 is amazing. 2 is fucking holy shit. And grand is like, uh-oh. Grand is like an uh-oh level. And then there are colors. There are red, blue, yellow, orange, purple, green, black. Color ranks are separated from other ranks. Special titles granted by Great Maggie or people exceptional talents. Red, blue, yellow represents the primary colors, which is the highest. Combined colors like orange, purple, green, and black are listed in descending order of rank or lesser importance. Their existence have no rules that each color is limited by a single magus, and the association does not hesitate to give out the titles to deserving people. They're essentially, once you get to the brand, you get brand color, right? And because it's so hard to, like, low key, it's impossible to get grand crown. But the second place has many different branches of specialty. So, like, for instance, brand red would be Toko Aozaki, because she did some next level shit. But yeah, further details are unknown, but not even a primary color. And then Aoko Aozaki got the brand blue because of holy shit, I forgot the name. Oh no.
Laugh at this user.
Kaiza El Bebeto. It's Witch in the Holy Night, excuse me. Yeah, Witch in the Holy Night. So it's simple shit, but most of the time, a lot of people, best case you can get is to cause Fess, if able, because Fess is kind of like, if you've done something great, you're get
doing
a title.
Made shit. You're gaming.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Because Waver Alamaloid II, he's pretty. I wouldn't say he's trash, but when it comes to mage, he's not really a mage.
When it comes.
He's more like a teacher. He really is a great teacher because he can turn a student into a honor student. But when it comes to like combat capabilities or own his magic, he's unfortunately subpar.
He's a garbage mage, but a great magic teacher.
Yes, essentially. And then like Pride, Pride is like Zokenmato, practically somebody that can have a power of immortality in their own hand. And then Brand's like crazy. Archibald was technically Brand because he was able to concoct a department of minerals, able to make his own supreme mystic code of hydrogallium, which was the mercury, right? The control of mercury and able to manipulate mercury so freely. And that was his magic. Like, no people can copy that except his family. And then you got Grand because Toko Aozaki is a cheater, and Toko Aozaki is a... Oh, man. She is a wonder. She did some next level shit, dude. Essentially, she's a puppeteer. At one point, she puppet and cloned herself perfectly. And at one point, she went batshit crazy, and she's like, "Well, what if I kill my entire family and take all the credits?" And they're just like, "What if I, just get a lot of this shit under my wings?" And she is a badass. She does play under, she plays very under, low key. But yeah, this is this is her magic crest stolen. Nobody should be looking like that. Remember, magic crest should only be in their arms, legs, and somewhere in their body. She's got that shit like butterfly.
She's like a kitsune.
Yeah, she fucking stole all these magic crests. She's crazy. There's like a whole at least 3 episodes of her. We can talk about her normal time, her earlier years, and then batshit crazy mode. But yeah, that probably concludes the basic fundamentals of the clock tower. We still haven't talked about Atlas. We still didn't talk about Boldandering Sea. But that is essentially the basics of the clock tower. Now, before you roast me, you are correct. Some of the departments I don't know as much as I should. Simultaneously, I haven't watched and rewatched and reread a lot of the case files simultaneously. The Apocrypha, short novel, and Strange Fake. So, if you're going to flame me, come on in. I will answer any questions at the comments below. But other than that, my boy Cheese, any questions?
Not particularly. I'm sure that any questions will be assessed in a further episode.
It will. But if you got anything, do let me know.
No, I don't think so.
Fantastic. If not, Mr. Bees, where can we find you?
Well, you can find me working the night shift at the grocery store down your street.
Hell yeah. And then you can find me on twitch.tv/TwoLoveTrouble at TwoLoveTrouble. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If any of you are listening, make sure you guys type in on the comments below. Once again, we will see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.